One thing a lot of people are worried about with the new Steam Deck is storage space. Obviously, the largest optional amount of storage space available on the new Steam Deck is 512 gigabytes, where most people's Steam libraries are much larger than 500 gigabytes. Enter the micro SD card. Now, as a lot of other videos have shown, there is no trouble booting off an SD card, but today I wanted to show you guys what I found with mine and what you definitely should not do. So today we're using a Samsung Evo 256 gigabyte U3 micro SD card. So the Steam Deck is only going to have a micro SD slot, but that shouldn't really be a problem. So I have here Benchy booted up with a Ryzen 3 3100 running at 3.4 gigahertz to closely represent the Steam Deck. We also have a 512 gigabyte SSD like the one that comes in the Steam Deck, even down to the same 2230 form factor. Now obviously form factor does not decide the speed of the storage, but it does give us a close idea of how it should perform. So most micro SD cards run about the same as a hard drive. Now one might have better random read writes and then the other might have better sequential read writes, but they're generally about the same performance. I'm just going to go ahead and run Crystal Disk Mark on all three of the drives that I have on Benchy here, just to get an idea of how they compare. So first up, I'm going to run it on the M.2 NVMe in that 2230 form factor that the Steam Deck should have. So this M.2 NVMe actually came out of our Dell XPS 8940. So if you have an XPS and you're trying to, expand the space on your Steam Deck, maybe just yoink the drive out of there. It'll be interesting to me to see how they integrate the SSD on the Steam Deck, if it's just a M.2 that you can replace, or if, say, the 64 gigabyte model comes with it soldered and you can add storage in on top of that. Because obviously the first thing I'm going to do is try to run an external graphics card on it, so get subscribed for that. So obviously the M.2 NVMe is smoking fast at 2500 megabytes per second sequential read and 800 sequential write. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and run our hard drive. It is a really slow 4 terabyte. I think it's a 5400 RPM. It's going to have a bad time compared to the M.2 NVMe. Expectedly, our hard drive is depressingly slow, but let's see how it stacks up against our SD card. So the humble SD card was a bit slower in sequential read writes, but it was quicker in random read writes, just as we had suspected. Much slower than an M.2 NVMe, but, it's not that far behind a regular old hard drive. And most of us boot games off of a hard drive anyway. So how does that affect load times in games? Well, in Cyberpunk, it takes about 10 to 15 seconds longer to get into the game. And then every time you die, it'll probably take that amount of time to load your last checkpoint. And then in Grand Theft Auto, we ran the benchmark, and from the very beginning, the M.2 looked like it had about a 15-second head start in actually starting up and running the benchmark, where it kind of carried that all the way till the end. So it looks like that shouldn't have any effect on, reload times unless you actually have to go through a loading menu. Again, about 15 seconds. And then we tried out an older title like Fallout New Vegas, where every time you enter or exit a building or a instance, you get kind of just a loading screen animation. Now, on the SD card, it took about 1 to 2 seconds longer on average to load scenes, which is a hell of a lot faster than a PlayStation 3, which I actually have mine set up here. And I'm going to show you guys a few clips of that loading Fallout New Vegas, just to give you some context of how much faster an SD card is than a PlayStation 3. Obviously, some of this has to do with the hardware on the PS3, and some of it has to do with the hard drive on the PS3. But it's pretty funny to show just how much longer it takes to load scenes on a PlayStation 3. I'm pretty sure part of the reason why the Las Vegas Strip is broken up into 3 sections in Fallout New Vegas is because of the limitations of the hardware on consoles at that time. But what I really wanted to show you guys today is what you should not do if you are playing games off an SD card. So naturally, by default, Steam has downloads while playing games unchecked. So it will not download a game while you are also playing a game. But say you just got your Steam Deck and you want to download a game while you're also playing a game. So you hit that check mark, you hit OK, you start your download on Vermintide 2 while you're also trying to play Cyberpunk. Well, one, immediately off the bat, Cyberpunk is going to take forever to load. It will stay on this black screen for a solid 20 or so seconds. And at that point, you might think, I think there's something wrong with my Steam Deck. But alas, there is nothing wrong with your Steam Deck. Make sure if you are trying to play games off an SD card, you are not downloading something in the background, because you will get incredibly long load times. On an M.2 NVMe, no problem. It's not going to care whatsoever. There is no way that you're going to saturate an M.2 NVMe over a Wi-Fi connection. This is with slow hard drive mode on, by the way. There is a setting in Cyberpunk for slow hard drives, and this is the kind of performance you get. I'm just going to go ahead and pause this just so we can get to the game, just because I want to show you what kind of glitches you can get from having a slow hard drive on Cyberpunk, or a slow SD card at that. So clearly, I pause the download, it immediately starts loading in. So say you somehow miraculously loaded into Cyberpunk while downloading Vermintide in the background, or any game at that. One, this is not a super high performance system, but it plays Cyberpunk okay at 1080p. The first thing you'll notice is assets start disappearing like weirdly fast. The game starts kind of stuttering, but you know, it's okay. It's not a high performance system. What's the worst that could happen? Well, the ground starts loading funny, and you get lag that's not necessarily FPS lag. Like, we're getting a solid 50 FPS right now, but we're not moving at all. Like, it's barely moving. And then you might start noticing that you are falling through the map. This sounds like a PS4 problem. Probably because PS4s also have slow hard drives. Well, we start losing textures on cars next to us as we slowly and gracefully fall through the map. Oh god. Oh no, we're having Cyberpunk issues right now. And we rebound through the map. And we're flying at a super high velocity into a different part of the map. So if we just quickly Alt-Tab and pause our download of Vermintide, when the game's going to freeze for a second because it's quickly catching up with all of our nonsense. I'd like to quickly give a epilepsy warning here because things get really weird. Well, we're already really breaking the game here. People start to load again. Cars start to load again. I'm getting this weird glitchy thing, so I'm going to go ahead and load my last save game. Just because I want to show you guys that the game does play okay on this system. Otherwise, it's not just a SD card problem. Like, if you're not downloading games at the same time as playing on your SD card, it is perfectly acceptable. There's nothing remotely wrong with how this plays. There's a little bit of texture popping, maybe because I have it on the slow hard drive mode, but it's not overall unplayable. Like, you're just getting some pop-in. But if I Alt-Tab it, resume my download, and then, you know, just continue driving my car like this, things start getting weird really quick. And it was at that point that things started getting weird. Honestly, it's really interesting to play this game in slow motion. Oh, we caught up. Actually, looks like it's doing okay right now. I wonder what happened. Oh, I guess my internet connection slowed down. So yeah, it's just something funny that can happen if you do something that you probably wouldn't think about. Like, you know, I'm showing it here and everybody in the comments will be like, what kind of idiot would download a game while playing a game on an SD card? But it's just something that you wouldn't think about. Like, some people don't think about these things. They got a new console, they want to play on it while they're also downloading something in the background. And, you know, just weird stuff can happen, like falling through the map. And then they might attribute that to something wrong with the console itself, when it's really just something they didn't think about as being wrong. So if you have a pre-order on a Steam Deck, you get it, you're super excited to use it, you have an SD card already ready for it, make sure that you don't download something in the background, right? And that's really it. I know I'm going to get beat to death in the comments over showing something that should be obvious, but it brings it to light and people should know about it. But it's pretty funny to just show what kind of problems you can run into when you're doing something like this, because if you see performance like this and you're not versed in how an SD card is supposed to perform or how this game is even supposed to perform, then you might attribute it to something wrong with the console, and it's not. Really, the takeaway from this is, I know you guys are excited to get your Steam Decks, and I am too. I'm really excited to get one. I'm going to do all kinds of content around it, but make sure when you get it, you put your SD card in it, you download stuff to your SD card. You don't also play on your SD card, because SD cards are perfectly good for gaming otherwise. It's just, make sure you're not doing anything else in the background. So if you like this video, go ahead and leave us a like. Let me know in the comments what kind of weird glitches you've seen from slow storage. Get subscribed for future Steam Deck related content, and like always, I'll see you next time.